Hello everyone, welcome back to SDG Games. I decided that it would be fun to end this year with a little bit of a recap video. I did the same thing last year, and that one I actually talked about some of the specific ups and downs, some struggles I had with learning to make games. I thought it'd be fun this year to tell the whole story of SDG Games so far. For now, I'm mainly going to focus on this year, but I wanted to talk about what got me here and where we're going. I also made some predictions in last year's video of what I thought 2022 would hold, and so I'm going to do the same, and they will probably be wrong again. All starts back in about 2016, or at least this part of the story does. I wasn't really playing games at the time, but I had some friends who were, and I remember a game came out called No Man's Sky. If you remember that, it was very, very overhyped. And essentially, it was the greatest game of all time and the last game you'll ever need to play. And people went nuts over it. And then it came out, and it was fine. But the developers, I remember hearing Sean Murray, the main guy at Hello Games, talking about the numerous death threats that they had received when this game wasn't as good as people thought it was going to be. The need people had for that game was just really interesting to me, and it really got me considering not everyone, but a lot of people will play games out of a need or a desperation to escape this world to find someplace better. At the same time, second thing that happened, I was reading a lot of C.S. Lewis. He's one of my favorite authors. If you don't know who he is, he's a Christian theologian and apologist, but he's best known for his fictional works. Chronicles of Narnia are the main one. So I was rereading one of the Narnia books. I think it was Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I was sitting in a room alone reading this and just had this moment where it felt like the story that I was reading was also right outside my window, and got up and went outside and just was experiencing the beautiful world that we live in. And that's the thing that Lewis did, was his stories were all reflections of a greater story. I want to do what Lewis did, but in games, and I don't see other people doing that. So this idea of Soli Deo Gloria, all for the glory of God, just means that I'm not making games for myself. I'm not making it for money or status or whatever. Like, I want to make games that make a difference. And I want to make games that change people's lives. And I don't think I can do that by making the greatest game ever made. That was the accidental folly of No Man's Sky. But I believe it's possible to make games that are reflections of a greater story and that can share hope with people who don't have a lot. So that was the start. And first thing I was working on was a colony sim game. I had been playing RimWorld at the time and got inspired to make a colony simulation game. My big idea for that game, mechanically speaking, was to reinvent the tech tree. It hadn't changed since Sid Meier made it in 1991 for Civ 1. So I was thinking it would be cool if each individual character had their own knowledge, and if a character died, everything they knew was also lost. That was the main point of that one mechanically, but from a story perspective, it was going to be a combination of the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis and some elements from Stargate Atlantis. So that was a big idea, Tree of Knowledge. Realized pretty quickly that that was way too big for someone who has only made a couple tiny games in high school or whatever. So I decided to pivot and work on a small project called Survive the Maze, which is just mainly my way of learning, and then I could get back to a bigger one. That was going to be a 3-month project. Essentially, it was a Pac-Man style game. I was calling it a MOBA Lite. It's based off the Minotaur's Labyrinth, that whole myth. And you have these Spartans that are running around in the maze. Those are like the Pac-Man ghosts, and they're carrying torches. And when the light hits a wall, the wall becomes solid and real. But when the light moves on, the wall turns to mist, and the monster can move through the maze and pass through those walls. It wasn't complicated at all, but that was a 2-year-long slog, and I never really finished it. That was where my video last year came in of, I think I said I forgot how to program. I never forgot anything, but I completely lost my confidence. I started going to Stack Overflow and looking for an answer, and if I couldn't find it, I gave up, because I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I can't do this. That was the rut I got into, and ended up crawling out of that. Again, that was last year's video, but decided from there to do something else. And that started the 20 games in 30 days challenge, was what it was originally called. I was going to do one game every weekend, essentially 10 or 15 games by the end of 2021. And I was going to make a video about it as well. And that's where the YouTube channel started. Turns out YouTube videos are a little bit more complicated than that. I probably could have made like a Pong or Space Invaders or whatever on a Saturday every week, maybe every other week. But when you add a video on top of that, there's no way. So I finished Pong, Breakout, Space Invaders, and Asteroids in that first year. Also did the recap video, like I said. Quite happy, though, with everything I had managed to do in the last few months of that year. I was starting to get my confidence back, starting to feel like I might be able to do this, might be able to make some games. I predicted that I would finish all of my 20 games this year and also finish my first game, maybe not complete it, but at least get it to like a early alpha or something. And I was thinking I could do maybe 2 videos a month. That's what I had started to achieve at my peak at the end of 2021. So I thought that I could do that, and then I'd have 3 months to do my first real game. How did I do? Yeah, I didn't quite get there. So I started out strong. In January, I made Frogger and Pac-Man. I think Pac-Man video stretched into early February, but I was happy with it, got a lot of good stuff done. And then I realized at that point I had made 6 games, and this 20 games challenge thing was actually a pretty cool idea. So I decided to do a recap video and just talk about what I had learned in those first 6 games. That one went live on February 15th. I'm excited to do a full write-up on it as well. The same day that happened, we had found out a little bit earlier that Jessica, or my wife, was pregnant. And so we started having some issues, and we went in, and on the day that video went live, we also found out we'd had a miscarriage. So that killed the schedule, obviously. But we did decide that we were going to be fully open and transparent with the people around us. So we started sharing our story and talking to people, and we got the support we needed. The number of people who had a Me Too moment was staggering. This happens to 1 in 4 couples, and no one talks about it. So the just the number of people who were like, we've suffered something similar. We also have had a child die. Can we just sit with you in your grief? And so that was one of the most bittersweet moments one of the most bittersweet seasons I've been through. Incredibly hard. Wouldn't wish it on anyone, but it was also really beautiful. And a lot of good came from it, and we had a lot of really cool conversations with people. So that was that. But started picking up on games again in April, and while that was happening, while I was away, the 20 games recap did incredibly well, and I got like 1,000 views and 100 subscribers from that video. To have 1,000 people interested in something that I'm doing, that was just incredible. So I spent a lot of time thinking about what it meant to be a content creator. And I also realized that there is a kind of cynical side of the watching numbers go up and forgetting, viewers, subscribers, players, like people. I don't know. We seem to forget that these are people. So I was thinking about a lot of this stuff. Ended up making a cookie clicker clone themed around social media, and it was all about posting nonsense to get huge numbers, and it was all about numbers and nothing meant anything. That one was my wrestling with some of those ideas. Super kind of sassy and cynical. I think that my itch page actually declared that it was a unrivaled work of art. Kind of went full arrogant on that one. So that was my Turn to 20 Games challenge. That was game number 7. And it was, again, me learning how to, in that case, make menus. And then after that, I did Mario World 1-1. And hey, now I know how to do platformers. At that point, I'm starting to feel, again, pretty confident, and decided that it would be worth starting to think about my first game that I was going to be making. I was going to start with pre-production for a little while, but I made a video to announce that. Essentially is devlog number 0 for a game that's going to be called Telemachus. Then made Motherload. This was a old Flash game. If you haven't heard of it, it's essentially like a Terraria kind of game. You're digging around in the ground. It was probably the game I'm most proud of from this year. If you were to play any one game I made, I would recommend that one. I'm actually considering maybe polishing it up and putting it on Steam. If you haven't figured out by now, the idea of the 20 Games Challenge is to be very confident that I can do things because I've done them twice. So if I can put a game on Steam, when my first game comes along, I'm going to feel pretty confident that I know how to set up a Steam page. Sounds silly, but it's worked so far. So that was that. And then at this point, things slowed down again. This is a much better reason, though. Another thing that I've been working on the past 5 years was I'd been investing into a group of high school students. So every week, I'm meeting with about 15 guys. They had graduated high school. And that resulted in 11 grad parties. We also had a wedding, and I also took a senior trip with them. It was an amazing summer, but I got no work done, and I'm still tired. I knew it was coming, and it was a finale for something I'd spent a lot of time with, and I knew that at the end of that road, I was going to start focusing more on games and having more time to work on this. But I came back and did another devlog and really started talking about why I want to make games and sharing some of the experiences I've been having with my students and how I wanted to share these stories that have changed my life with other people. So that was that whole video. And yeah, it was terrible whatever title and thumbnail combination, so nobody really watched it, but everyone who did watch it was incredibly positive, and every now and then I'll just get a comment on it that is just really encouraging. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to do this one. This is a good game that's worth making. And then had, the next 3-4 months. So I was going to make a whole bunch more games. And what I made was Minecraft, and more Minecraft. I thought that was going to be a 2-week project. It turned into 2 months and 4 videos. I would have said it as a waste, except that that was the thing that got my channel to take off this year, which has been incredible to see. At the same time when that was happening, we actually found out that we are pregnant again, which is definitely going to, change how things work next year. Side note, this is nothing to do with game design, but when you share your story, that story becomes shared. And I know that sounds obvious, but it was incredible to see the response of people who had started walking with us since last February. And we start sharing this news that we have, and our news became their victory because they had been invested in it all this time. And just the number of people who have said, yeah, I've been praying for you ever since then, that it's incredible, and it's really humbling to know that we have so many people already who are invested in the life of our baby girl that we're going to be having. So I think that was most of this past year. I definitely didn't reach those goals I had of, finishing all 20 games, but I learned a ton, and I'm feeling like I'm ready to start something new. I'm also going to be launching the 20 Games Challenge. I had feedback way back in, was that February now, that people were saying, this is really cool. It would be great if other people could do this challenge. So I have been working on a website, and it's just a small, static website, whatever, but it's going to be showcasing the 20 Games Challenge, and that's going to go live. There's also going to be a video, I think on the 1st. So it's going to be, hey, Happy New Year. If you want to learn to make games, here's how you can do that. So that's going to be my next video. And then I am going to be, from there on out, mixing 20 Games Challenge with Telemachus. So I'm going to be, for example, that one, like I said, is a racing game. So I'm going to make Mario Kart and Star Fox and F-Zero in the 20 Games Challenge. And then I know that I've made those games. I feel confident I can do it again. That's the way I'm going to use that, for the next 10 games or so. And I'm just going to be learning one advanced concept per game, or making a game that is going to lead me to the main game I want to make. So yeah, that's what it looks like going forwards. Obviously, I'm going to be out for 2 or 3 months this summer. But other than that, I am going to be continuing to work on this and making more games. And yeah, honestly, thank you so much to everyone who's chosen to subscribe to the channel and jump in with me on this adventure. I keep forgetting to mention this. I do have a Discord, so if you want to jump in and say hi, I'd love to hear that too. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the new year.